Twice.
Mr. Jenkins, turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
Could you repeat the question, sir?
Sure. So turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
It was the birthday party being held at the penthouse.
And when you say the penthouse, what are you referring to?
It's the Eastern Columbia building.
And what were you doing that evening?
That evening, I was assigned security on the detail.
Were you inside the residence while the birthday party was taking place?
I was in the CP, the command post that's stationed on the same floor, right outside of the elevators.
And did you interact with Ms. Hurd at all that evening?
Yes, I did.
Can
In
you
regards to getting her clients keys, parking, making sure no one else was on the floor that wasn't invited to the party.
Were there any issues at the birthday party at the time that you were present at the penthouses?
No issues except for the boss did not show up.
And do you recall what time you left that day?
11:15 p.m. that evening.
And Mr. Jenkins, what happened the next day, April 22nd, 2016?
I arrived early, 10:45. Went upstairs to the penthouse. I was informed by Amber that she got in a fight with Johnny last night. She threw his personal property over the balcony into the streets, 9th and Broadway.
And when you say personal property, what are you referring to?
His phone, wallet, credit cards, passports, everything that's in his wallet.
Did Ms. Hurd say anything else to you about this altercation?
Nothing except they were fighting.
So what did you do after Ms. Hurd informed you that she had thrown Mr. Depp's personal property off the balcony?
Formulated a plan with Norm from the office to use the Find My Phone app, hit the streets, and try to get lucky.
Did you end up finding Mr. Depp's phone?
Yes, I did. In Skid Row, probably 6 miles from the house.
And who had the phone?
A homeless gentleman, unhoused gentleman. I approached him about the phone. He was honest. He returned it. I gave him a reward for it.
And what was the reward?
$420, chicken tacos, chips, apples, Fiji water.
So after finding Mr. Depp's phone, what did you do?
I returned to the penthouse, showed the phone to Amber that I retrieved it. I left it in the CP for the evening security to return it to Mr. Depp.
So after figuring out things with the phone, what happened next?
What happened next is I walked Amber to the car. We got everybody in the car. She's on her way to Coachella. I went back to the penthouse to retrieve the dogs and the luggage.
Were you also going to Coachella with Ms. Hurd?
Yes, I was. I was the transportation for Amber and her friends while she was at Coachella.
So how did you get to Coachella?
Drove the SUV provided by Johnny, put the animals and all the luggage in, and headed out to the venue.
And the morning of April 22nd, did you see any injuries on Ms. Hurd?
No marks, no injuries.
And so driving out to Coachella, did anyone drive with you?
I was in the car alone except for the animals.
And how did Ms. Hurd get to Coachella?
She drove her Mustang.
Was anyone else in her car?
She was with, I believe, her sister and one other friend, her assistant, Savannah.
And do you know how many days Ms. Hurd and her friends were planning to stay at Coachella?
So the following Monday, I believe it's the 25th of April, we departed.
And do you recall where Ms. Hurd was staying at Coachella?
We were staying at the Parker boutique hotels there in Palm Springs outside of Coachella.
Were you also staying at the Parker Hotel?
I also stayed there
And so did you attend Coachella for work or for pleasure?
for work.
And what was your job that weekend?
Provide security and transportation, animal care, Amber's rolling assistant, take care of her, whatever she needed while she was there at the Parker or in out traveling.
Do you recall what time approximately you arrived at the Parker Hotel on April 22nd?
Around 5:30ish, maybe 5:45.
And what did Miss Heard and her friends do that evening, April 22nd?
That evening, we arrived. We were assigned the rooms. We went with the staff of the Parker Hotel around to the suites where we were staying. They let us in. We let all the luggage in, and we proceeded to plan for that evening to depart by 7:15ish to get to the festival then.
And how did Miss Heard and her friends get from the hotel to the festival that evening?
I drove them directly to there.
And did you have any discussions with Miss Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
And what did Miss Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
Mr. Jenkins, what observations did you make about Miss Heard at Coachella in April 2016?
She had no worries. She was there to whoop it up. It's her birthday. She's with her friends.
And how often were you with her that weekend?
Was with her every day. She went to the venue from the time that we interacted with the wallet incident, the night before at the party, all the way until Monday. We returned with the pets and the luggage.
And did you observe anything about Miss Heard's health that weekend?
She got sick.
Do you know
She got sick at the venue the second night.
Do you know what caused Miss Heard to be sick?
She was eating the magic mushrooms and drinking red wine on an empty stomach.
And how do you know that she drank red wine and took magic mushrooms?
I saw the room service, and I went to their room to collect them to take them out that evening.
So is that something?
In the car.
Excuse me. Is that something you witnessed?
I witnessed it.
And what did you do in response to Miss Heard being sick at Coachella?
I collected her, got her in the vehicle. She didn't want anyone else to know that she was sick. Take her back to the Parker alone. I took her to the 7-Eleven where I retrieved hydrating fluids, Advil, and let her have those. Got her back to the Parker, got her into the suite, and then went back to pick up everyone else.
And Mr. Jenkins, when you said Miss Heard got sick, do you recall what her symptoms were?
Yeah, she was throwing up.
Mr. Jenkins, did you see any injuries of any kind on Miss Heard April 22nd, 2016?
No injuries.
A sustain, so yes.
What about the rest of that weekend, Mr. Jenkins? Any injuries that you saw?
No injuries.
Have you ever witnessed any physical abuse between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jenkins.
Good afternoon.